What if I told you that 8 months before I ever met a client, I was already pitching to him in my bedroom? There was no contact, no connection, no introduction in any way, and absolutely no access to this person. It sounds delusional, right? But stay with me, because that delusion became one of the most defining professional moments of my life. It's Storytelling Mondays. So it started as a random thought, not a strategy session, not a scheduled meeting with someone. Someone's name just, popped into my head. I think I was reading the news one day, and then they mentioned his name. One of Bielsa's most prominent statesmen, a man who had occupied a lot of powerful political offices, and shaped conversation at very high levels, but somehow almost nobody talked about him publicly as much as they should, or not even in mainstream conversations, not even in the media space where influence should echo naturally. I mean, people whose job is literally to know key figures, right? In society, they didn't know him. Now, that is very poor positioning from either him or his team. That's what happens when influence exists without a narrative, when power without storytelling is invisible. And I remember asking myself one very simple question: how can someone that significant at the time be this unknown? And then something unusual happened. I started preparing, not because I had a meeting with the person, not because I had some sort of connection with the person. I didn't even know anyone that knew him at the time. So not because I had an opportunity to meet him or even wanted to go to his office, but I just started, writing an elevator pitch. I stood in front of the mirror and pitched this idea over and over again. And I sharpened my words, I anticipated objections, I imagined questions, I built responses. I even developed a pitch treatment, outlining how his public image could be repositioned, how his visibility could expand, how perception could shift strategically in the region. And I did this consistently for about 2 weeks, and then I stopped. Life happened. I had a lot of projects. I had project deadlines to submit and whatnot. So things sort of filled my calendar. 8 months passed. Then one evening I was sitting with a friend. We're having a normal conversation, and then she mentioned to me that there's somebody that she knows that the guy is not in the public space. She really wants to make sure he's well known. And then she mentioned that he needed, a communications and PR strategist. He wanted to be more visible. He's preparing for something major. And I asked her, who is this person? And then she mentioned the guy's name. The same person that I had rehearsed 8 months ago for. I didn't even know my reaction. I just told her, I just laughed and told her. When I laughed, she asked me, do I know the person? I said, no, I've never met him before. But then I just said, you know what, let me have a meeting with this guy. When we meet with him, he's going to, let's discuss, and then we take it up from there. So she arranged a meeting with him. And that evening, we met together, and then there he was, sitting right there. The man who I had mentally prepared for a split second. Everything felt surreal. Not because I was shocked, but because I felt everything just somewhat felt familiar, like I had been there before. When we started talking, something powerful happened. The words, flowed effortlessly, not because I was lucky, but because I was ready somewhat. I had prepared 8 months ago, and everything I had rehearsed months ago sort of started resurfacing naturally. The clarity, the structure, the conviction, the strategy. There was no scrambling of ideas, no nervous improvisation, just alignment between preparation and opportunity. We had a productive conversation, and the next day we met again. Soon after, we signed a retainer, I think a 6-month retainer or so. So my team and I executed the campaign. We expanded its visibility. We did exceptionally well. I can categorically say because of us, people knew who he was. This story isn't about the PR, it's about positive thinking. Because positive thinking may be misunderstood sometimes with wishful thinking. It's not sitting down and hoping for miracles. Positive thinking is preparation without proof. It's positioning your mind before the door even opens, or even before you think you're going to be in rooms like that. It's rehearsing for rooms you haven't entered yet. When I was standing in front of that mirror, nobody knew. When I was refining that pitch, nobody had called. When I was preparing that treatment, there was no access. I did not even think I was going to meet this guy. But I was becoming a person who would be ready when the access came. Here's the truth. Opportunity rarely sends a calendar invite. It appears suddenly. And when it does, you don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your preparation. If I had waited until opportunity showed up before becoming ready, I may have fumbled really. But positive thinking is not magic. It is mental discipline. It is telling yourself, when the moment comes, I will not be scrambling. Because sometimes what looks like coincidence is actually preparation meeting timing. Your mind can arrive somewhere before your body even does. Your preparation can enter rooms before your name is called. And one day you walk into a space and your future will be sitting there. When that happens, it won't feel like luck at all. It will feel like, recognition, because you've been there before somehow. You've been preparing. And in your mind, in your preparation, in your belief, that is the power of positive thinking. It doesn't just change how you see the future, it prepares you to meet your future. So share in the comments below if something like that has ever happened to you before, and then you can go watch my next video. Thanks.